the key there is really about trust. It's building trust. It's much more than just branding, isn't it?
I strongly believe that, you know, your business needs to resonate with your people and your type of client. You know, and I like to bring business owners back to the reality that people will still shop around. People still will look at a few different options.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, there's more emotion because you may be placing your son or your daughter for the first time in a home that isn't yours. Because it's a big move and a big transition for everyone. There's anxiety, there's guilt, there's excitement, there's fear. So how are you going to tell that story to make someone want to come and walk through your SIL and check it out? And that is what, you know, I see one of the biggest opportunities for SIL providers to win.
Every SIL provider knows the challenges: compliance, rosters, claims. But what if you could work smarter, grow faster, and make a bigger impact? Welcome to SILosophy, where we have real conversations about what it takes to succeed in supported independent living. This podcast is powered by Tania Gomez Consulting and Resolve. Let's get into it.
Hello and welcome to SILosophy. Today I'm joined by the wonderful Chris Lapa from the Growth Academy. Hey Chris, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege.
So nice to have you back and in this beautiful studio today. And for those of our listeners who haven't had the privilege of meeting you before, can you just give us a little bit of a background about you, what you do in the NDIS space, and a little bit about the Growth Academy?
Cool. So background for me, career-wise, I've done about 15 years in marketing. So consulting businesses through agency work, from everything through websites and social media to Google, and spent some time in TV land and radio. So I really touched most or all marketing channels. And in the last few years, have found myself specialising in the NDIS space. So working with a range of different providers, and also companies helping providers. So yeah, found a niche in a space that I really enjoy and love, and, you know, can help businesses help more people, which is exciting.
Yeah, amazing. And you've personally worked with a number of my SIL clients specifically around helping them fill SIL vacancies. And that's really the topic of today. Is very often my clients, and I think all SIL providers, find themselves in the position where they have a vacancy in one of their SIL homes. And often I have conversations with them where they're saying, I just need to turn on a Facebook campaign. And I wanted to just discuss with you what actually is the best way to fill a SIL vacancy. What are the tools we should be using? What should we know about? What should this look like, and where do we start?
One day I'm hoping to have the silver bullet, the secret key to unlock that, but really there's so many variables that come into it. Social media campaigns can certainly help. Google can help. A really good website can help. A really good network can help. So there are a lot of ways to do it. You know, it depends on how your business is set up. What's more important first is how well your brand stands out amongst the rest. And, you know, we'll talk about channels in a second, but I think it's so important as the NDIS landscape evolves, as more people are coming in because they've seen opportunities, they've seen this insane growth in the space. There are some greedy people coming in thinking they can just turn a business on a dime and fill vacancies and things. And so now more than ever, I believe the brand story behind what you do and why you do it, your team, your people, the specifics around what you do with your SIL, you know, is it a SIL for everyone, or is it a niche kind of SIL for, you know, young men with autism, or, you know, people with cerebral palsy? What does that look like? And so having a very clear story and understanding of who you are as a business, as an operator, and what it is that you really want to deliver for those SIL participants.
Yeah, great. I think that branding is something that often my clients tell me that they can't afford. But what we're talking about here isn't branding as in a nice logo and a pretty color palette. We're not talking, you know, about high level branding here. You're actually talking about positioning and messaging as far as communicating the the reasons why someone should choose to put their loved one, or why a participant directly themselves should choose to live in your room in that location versus the other 10 other vacancies that they've seen or they've heard about. And I think the key there is really about trust. It's building trust by talking about why you do what you do and talking about your message. You're displaying trust, and you're building up your reputation, which I know we could call branding, but it's much more than just branding, isn't it?
Yeah, to steal a page out of our good friend Tommy's book, the concept of resonance is really important. And so I'll give him full credit for that one. That is his piece. But I strongly believe that, you know, your business needs to resonate with your people and your type of client. And so you're right, the brand, you know, the logo and stuff, to be honest, the industry is very, it's very cliche with their logos. It's either the nice warm fuzzy love heart or a few of the caring hands combined or things. And so they're not as important, to be honest. It's more about that story and that message.
Yeah.
And what does your SIL stand for, and how are you going to connect? You know, and I like to bring business owners back to the reality that people will still shop around. You know, like you would shop for a dress for an event, or a plumber if you need a plumber in your local area. People still will look at a few different options.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, there's more emotion, because you may be placing your son or your daughter for the first time in a home that isn't yours. And so if I land on a website that doesn't stand for anything, that is very uninspiring and doesn't have a clear positioning and where they lie in the market, it's hard for anyone to connect on a level beyond, oh, that house looks nice.
Yeah.
You know, it looks clean or it looks new. And that's a whole different kettle of fish. I've seen some really horrible photos and videos of vacancies. You know, it's so undervalued, or people aren't valuing it enough. Really good photos, really good videos, and then having someone sell that into a dream. You know, you might be putting your son or your daughter in a house with strangers. Someone needs to fall in love with that vision of what you're going to do for their son or daughter, because it's a big move and a big transition for everyone. There's anxiety, there's guilt, there's excitement, there's fear. So how are you going to tell that story to make someone want to come and walk through your SIL and check it out? And that is what, you know, I see one of the biggest opportunities for SIL providers to win, is to really have a story behind it and do more than just put it up as another real estate listing.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I want to talk to you a little bit more about social media, and specifically around how, like, well, do you want to start with what channels we should be using, or about the messaging on those channels?
Well, I mean, we've touched on the messaging, and we'll come back to that. Looking at social media is certainly a powerful platform. And when I spend time with clients, it's about educating them, you know, about their customer. One of the biggest mistakes business owners make is thinking, I've got a business, I need to tell the world about it. But they don't think, where are my customers and what are they looking for, and what information do they need to help make that decision? So social media is a really powerful platform to broadcast your message. There is challenges around social media advertising for SIL. You can't go in and target NDIS participants specifically. You can't go in and target people with a disability or that are interested in a disability. So there are challenges, but that's where messaging comes in. You might target a broad audience, but as long as you're clear on qualifying who this campaign's for or who this ad is for, you start to filter in the right people. And so I've seen some big success with, for example, Facebook lead gen campaigns. It's a very specific execution on Facebook, where if you have a crummy website, as an example, you don't need to send people to your website. You can generate leads. I'll touch on sales quickly. People think sales is a yucky thing in the NDIS, and it really isn't. At the end of the day, if you sell better, you help more people, you know. And so people need to have a really well-defined sales process as part of their marketing. So, but back to the channels, we can use social media to create awareness, to drive traffic to your website, to convert people, to inquire, to nurture people. A participant or their mum might be considering going through that journey for 6 months or longer before they make a decision. Maybe they're in a SIL and that SIL's changing and they need to look for an alternative. So that path to purchase can be quite a few months.
Yeah.
And so social media is really powerful at nurturing and staying top of mind. And again, communicating what your business is about and what your participants get and experience with your SIL. Some other good channels, Google Ads and SEO are always still powerful. Google Ads is one of the ones we can turn on overnight, so to speak, and find people searching for SIL vacancies in a certain area or disability accommodation. Again, your website has to be really well structured, optimized for conversion. It can't be slow load speed. The photos can't be out of date. The branding has to be nice and fresh. The messaging has to be on point. So there is a lot of work to be done, but Google is also really another powerful platform. And probably one of the last ones that I see as most beneficial is your network. And to steal a page out of your book, your network is your net worth, right? And so I've seen clients fill vacancies purely by putting out a call on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm in need of a SIL for a client that I have. Or, hey, we have a vacancy open up for a SIL house. The household's typically younger males or younger females or whatever. Does anyone know anyone? And the NDIS community is pretty good at commenting for each, sharing to their network, supporting one another, and realizing that maybe my SIL isn't right for this participant, but I know someone who's got a really good SIL.
Yeah.
So network is super powerful. So go and build your LinkedIn and go and build your network there.
So you've touched on Facebook campaigns, and we've talked about turning on Google AdWords and using LinkedIn. How do you determine which of these channels is the best place to put your investment?
Probably get a consultant to help you. Shameless plug, but there's a few variables. So if a client says to me, I want to run Google Ads, I'll go and look at their website. And if their website's not up to scratch, I'll either have a candid conversation to say we need to fix your website first and then we launch Google Ads. Because you're paying per click, you want to optimize for that click as best as possible.
Yeah.
You don't want to fill the virtual leaky bucket.
Yeah.
And so if you're sending them to a crummy website, don't use Google Ads, you know. So Google Ads is really good because it'll tell you how many people are looking. And so you might find 1,000 searches a month for SIL vacancy Hornsby. That's a really good opportunity if that volume's there, but if your website's crummy. So I do go through a bit of a process of understanding all of our best opportunities. Ultimately, I always want to try and get some quick wins for the clients.
Yeah.
And so if you've got a network of 1,000 people on LinkedIn, while we're building campaigns, let's put a call to arms out, and we may not even need to launch the campaign. I'm a big believer in getting the result for the client whatever way possible, and so it's a matter of analysing a few things first. I wish I could say one or the other. Yeah. And I feel like every time I answer that, people want me to just give them the answer. Facebook ads 100%.
Yeah. But they have different purposes.
They do.
Don't they?
100%.
So this is how I see it from a lay person, non-marketing person. I see LinkedIn is connect peer-to-peer, right?
Yep.
So they're your mates, not your market.
Yep.
You're talking about your things. You're creating a relationship online, which is incredibly powerful, and you're using that network to spread the word. That's a very different thing. It's top of the funnel, I suppose, where, you're over a long period of time just talking about what you do. Then something like a Facebook ad is really trying to convert. You're trying to get a lead in now that you're hoping you can then talk to and you can convert.
Yep.
And similar with Google AdWords.
Yep.
And I guess both Google AdWords and Facebook, they both have things like the location. So for both of them, you can say the house is in Hornsby, as you said, let's do a 5 kilometre around Hornsby for that vacancy.
Yep.
And you can turn those on and off really quickly.
Yep.
So you can say, okay, we have a new house coming on board here. We're going to do a campaign 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out. I'm not sure what the lead time is. And then as soon as it's filled, you turn that off.
Yeah.
Where things like SEO, you have to actually have quite a long lead time. It'll take 3, 6 months, 12 months for SEO to actually work. But once you have it working, it then obviously pays you back over time. 100%. So there's different channels for different things, and you kind of need a mix of all of them.
Yeah.
It's not like Facebook alone is going to solve all your problems, right?
Yeah, it's funny. Firstly, we should be interviewing you about marketing. You summarise it so well. I guess I have a bit of a default response based on people come to me desperate for answers.
Yeah.
And so all the stuff you talk about is a dream for a marketing manager to explore every channel.
Yeah.
And you're spot on with everything you said. The biggest challenge is someone will come knocking on my door and say, Chris, I got 2 vacancies. I need to fill them tomorrow.
I've got $3,000 budget.
Right. And it's like, that's not a big budget.
Yeah.
And let's be real, if someone signs up for a SIL, they may have anywhere from 200 to 500,000 funding a year.
Yeah.
So you should be able to afford to invest more to get that lead.
Yeah.
And so my default at the moment is many clients needing the silver bullet, and so I do a quick analysis. But if I was in the luxury of, a big company with a marketing budget of hundreds of thousands, I'd be looking at SEO to play the long term so I could turn Google Ads off. I'd run Facebook campaigns to fill our funnel, to nurture from top to middle to bottom, and to create awareness. It's social media is kind of the replacement of TV or radio these days. And so, every client, I wish we had a full scope of budget. And so my default instantly is, let's look at all your assets.
Yeah.
Let's look at how good your website is, how good your social presence is. Do you have a big database? All of these little things will help us identify the best calculated move to make without any guarantees, because there never is.
Yeah.
And again, a few examples. I've had one client come on with a low budget. We turned on some Facebook lead ads because their website wasn't good enough. We had some early wins and got a couple of vacancies filled by spending probably $5,000 to $10,000. So that's 2 vacancies filled with a $5,000 to $10,000 investment.
Yeah.
Those people might stay with that company for a few years. So there's quite a few $100,000 in revenue generated.
Yeah.
I had another client, their website was quite good. We had some nice listings on their site. We turned on Google Ads, and in a few weeks, filled a couple of vacancies.
Yeah.
So it is, different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. So it sounds like you almost do an audit, right?
Absolutely.
Like in my head, it's an audit where you go, okay, let's find the gaps. Let's do a gap analysis. Let's then look for the biggest bang for your buck.
Yeah.
And then you target that based on what they need. So in my head, as you're talking, I've done a little matrix. It's how my brain works.
Yeah.
So my matrix has said, this is my summary of what you said, is if you have a great website, we can do Google Ads, and that's probably the best investment. If you have a crap website, we're going to Facebook to generate leads, but maybe those lead quality isn't quite as good as Google. Yep. And then
you need a really good sales funnel and a sales process, which is a whole different beast.
Yeah, I know that for Facebook leads, absolutely. And so ideally we want to go to Google if you have everything else set up. If not, we're going to go to Facebook, which might be cheap and cheerful. You're going to burn a little bit of money, get a lot of leads through. Maybe they're not as high quality. And then that's your closest thing we can go to a silver bullet if you've got a $3,000 budget and a vacancy to fill now. And then we want to then build the building blocks of LinkedIn groups, LinkedIn network, and other organic social posts around your team, your commitment, your community, your difference, and then push that. But that's, I guess, secondary to let's fill that vacancy now.
Yeah. One of the other things I'll say in this industry, more so than most industries I've worked in, is personal brand and company brand are equally as important, more than many industries. And so for any client that comes to me and says, Chris, I need to get some runs on the board overnight, I'm always going to give them homework as well.
Yeah.
And that is, go and build your relationships on LinkedIn and build your profile. Make sure it's up to scratch. Hustle the hell out of it. Go to events. Meet people like Tania and other people that are super connected in the industry. That's your homework. You're going to go do that. Best case scenario, in 3 months, 6 months, you don't need to rely on me as your marketing engine, because you've just got a killer network.
Yeah.
So you go and build that while I go and build the marketing engine for your brand.
Yeah.
And then we can be more flexible over 6, 12, 18 months and into the future. That's how you build a sustainable marketing engine and growth engine.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
And that's so important in this industry. Again, more than I can't emphasize enough compared to so many other industries.
Yeah, it's good to hear you say that, because that's something that I picked up. It's why I changed from Provider Plus to Tania Gomez Consulting. It's not by accident. I hate using my name, but it's the personal brand. I know that the personal brand is what matters, that I'm selling me as much as I'm selling the services I provide. And that's scary, but I think it's very necessary. And I've invested many, many years on my LinkedIn, but I have a great network. I'm almost at 10,000 connections or followers or whatever they call it on there. And I know that I have a great network there, and it's definitely helps me with things. I know I'm not a provider trying to fill vacancy, but very often I'm trying to fill a vacancy of a seat at an event or a seat at a course or a SIL summit. That's right. And the network really is, but it's like everything. It's actually how much you give to that network, not how much you take.
Absolutely.
And I think people forget that sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be my 2 cents on that. I want to now just talk quickly around crafting the right message. So we've talked about channels, we've talked about brands. How important is actually the words that you write in your ad? Because I've looked at some ads for SIL homes before. They seem to be sometimes very generic, SIL vacancy available. I get a newsletter from one of my clients each week maybe, or each month, that sell, here's all my SIL vacancies. And I just wonder how effective that is.
This is controversial. Sometimes it doesn't matter as much as us big believers in brand and storytelling do believe in it. Majority of the time it does. There can be outliers where you just slap something together and you fluke it and you'll get some leads and you'll fill a vacancy.
Yeah.
However, majority of the time story matters, messaging matters. And so simple things like, instead of, let's take a step back. When you start crafting your message, once again, the most important thing is it's not about you. It's not about your business. It's not about your desperate plea to fill a vacancy.
Yeah.
Everyone must remember that. It's about the end user. It's about their world. It's about their mum going through the anxiety and fear and excitement of putting their son into a SIL for the first time, or daughter, or that person looking to find a home for themselves. It's about them and their world and their fears, frustrations, pains, wants, needs. And so lead with that. Connect on their level first. I always say, meet on their level, introduce yourself. And it's the same as just being a human being.
Yeah.
You know, networking events, you don't walk in and just 100% talk about yourself. The best way to connect is to ask people about themselves.
Yeah.
So when you're crafting that message, make it emotive, make it connect with their wants and needs, not yours. And so, and then have a bit of identity and tone and language around what your brand stands for. If it's fun, if it's serious, if it's professional, whatever it is, and then lead with something like, you could test, we're looking for our next housemate. That's not common language in SIL, because it's this kind of like, oh, we're amazing, we do all these care and supports and whatever. What about just go and hang out with some people that are like-minded, that want to play PlayStation or cook or go on adventures, because they're housemates. And so I've seen that work really well. Lead with the whole independence and skill building and stuff. Lead with that first. So the biggest tip I can give is think about your customer. If they were reading this ad, what's going to tick and stop their scroll and inspire them and excite them? and it's about their world and their life. It's not about you.
Yeah, I love that. I think so what you've talked about there is a concept that you taught me about users and choosers, right? And I think in SIL specifically, we do have two very different users and choosers. And what I've seen some of my clients do is have two different marketing campaigns, one for the user and one for the chooser, which could be similar but different messaging. I've also seen one of my clients has two different business cards, one for the user, one for the chooser. The one for the participant doesn't mention NDIS on it. It's about having a cool experience. And the one for the support coordinator or the parent or the other person does the official stuff. And so I think, that's really important to actually know who you're talking to, who's reading this. So, and that helps back to your channels also, right? So who is the chooser and who is the user and who are you communicating to? And that really helps craft that message, because if you're posting on LinkedIn, you're not talking to the user. So talking about how beautiful the house is or talking about certain elements isn't going to resonate with that person who's reading that. But if you are posting it on Facebook and it's going to be the user directly, or you're meeting with them face to face, even through the meet and greet process, really targeting it to who are you talking to right now is really important. And sometimes that's the same person, but sometimes it's different. And I think that's really important. When my first business started as a babysitting agency, and the user was a child, and the chooser was a parent. So my messaging obviously was to the parent to choose us. But when I walked in the door, my business name was Jelly Beans. What made Jelly Beans Babysitters different than every other babysitting business is we walked in with a box of toys.
I was about to say your language is toys or jelly beans.
It's toys.
Right?
But parents don't like jelly beans.
No.
But at all our expos, we had jelly beans everywhere. I can tell you I've never eaten jelly beans since. I ate so many jelly beans. But yes, I would walk in. We did all hotel babysitting. Sometimes we would have 600-700 babysitters in a night out, and we would walk into every hotel room with a box of toys. And every single person who's on holidays wants to go out more than one night, and we increased our return rate dramatically by actually talking to the user, which was the child, and talking to the chooser. And then we went one more step forwards, which is almost like support coordinators in NDIS. We went to every concierge at the hotel and gave them a commission. So we had two choosers, the concierge who would refer us to the chooser. Yes, and then we would have the child. So in NDIS language, something similar is really important, that you have the messaging for the support coordinator is different than the messaging to the parent or the caregiver, whoever that might be, or the public trustee. If it's a support coordinator or public trustee, it's different messaging again. They care about different things. Yeah,
one of the things I say to everyone, it's really important to have a kind of mini comms plan for each one of those people. So I've got a diagram, be cool if we could bring it up. I've got a diagram that I talk to, which is exactly what you're saying. In the middle is the participant, and often equally is the primary carer. So mum, dad, or someone else, a nominee perhaps. And then you've got this ecosystem of stakeholders around. That's the support coordinators, the support workers, the allied health professionals. The list goes on. And so I say to all of my clients, what is your comms plan for each of those people? And again, if we talk about lowest hanging fruit, if you look at that whole ecosystem, start with the most important person and go hard at that one first and really own that.
And that's the participant,
right? Well, yes, but equally support coordinators are a big part of the industry. We know they're the gatekeepers, and their bullshit radars are bigger than most people in this space. And Storm, she's given me plenty of insight into clients we've worked on together. And she would say, like, Chris, their website says nothing to me. If I was, that support coordinator for that participant, I wouldn't go to them. And that has helped me evolve our campaigns and our messaging. Because you have to have that mini comms plan for each. And again, unique to every other industry that I've worked in, there's so many influential stakeholders. so many users and so many choosers.
Yeah.
And so, the final point, the language is, once upon a time in marketing, you would say you or your. Now it's you or the person you care for.
Yeah.
You've got to kind of do, if you can find a way to break them out, it's great. Otherwise, the generic thing is it always has to be you or the person you care for.
Yeah.
And that could be the support coordinator, the plan manager, whoever, the mum, the dad, or the person.
Yeah.
So mini comms plan for all the stakeholders is a really important piece of your marketing mix.
Yeah. And I guess if that's all too complicated to do multiple campaigns, you could also just tailor. I mean, your SIL providers will already be doing this, but when you sit down for your meet and greets, you're already naturally tailoring your communication to participants and to whoever else they might have with them. But then just thinking that one more step of then what do I leave them to go away with, instead of giving them 100 documents and forms that, aren't inclusive and are, too cumbersome, actually thinking about, well, what can I leave the participant with? What can I leave their parent with? And I have a client who's actually one of our joint clients, and what they do is actually their meet and greet, they do an afternoon tea and they invite them for afternoon tea. And I don't know if they do it or they've talked about doing it, but they actually leave the participant with a tiny little gift, and they leave, the parent with a very comprehensive pack. And they've just thought through those things about post this meeting, what are they walking away with before they've made that decision? And that's, I guess, bottom of the funnel type activity.
Absolutely.
But I think those little touches is what really put people ahead, because you're showing professionalism, you're showing you're thinking about them, you're showing you're caring. And if you can link that somehow back to your brand values, then I think that's almost magic.
Yeah. Remove the desperation of filling that vacancy.
Yeah.
Just get that out of your head. I know it's hard as a business owner when you got the head of finance breathing down your neck because the numbers aren't where they should or need to be. But if you remove that desperation and replace it with the human element that the NDIS needs, and then connect it with a bit of marketing psychology, that alone is a growth strategy in and of itself.
Yeah.
The rest will come.
Yeah.
And you may not need a killer marketing funnel if you just humanize some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think putting the participant in the center, I know support coordinators are important, but I think if a support coordinator is a good support coordinator, then actually they really care that the participant's first.
100%.
So I think that's, a contentious issue. I do see communication sometimes only written for support coordinators, and I'm not a support coordinator, but I wonder, isn't the support coordinator reading that and thinking, hang on a second, you've missed somebody here? I don't know. Yeah, I agree. This is the never-ending split test of marketing. A/B split testing. Yeah. So I think we've covered a lot there today. We've talked about the importance of a strong, I don't even want to call it brand. I want to call it story or positioning, really knowing what you're about and how you're going to communicate that. We've talked about channels. We've talked about Facebook. We've talked about LinkedIn. We've talked about Google Ads and SEO a little bit. We've talked about really crafting and targeting messages and communications. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about today that you think is really important for a SIL provider to consider when they're looking to fill a vacancy?
Yeah, we've touched on it, but I want to go deep, which is sales. And it's not sales in the traditional sense. We're not selling used cars or snake oil. We're selling the dream of independence and a long life, hopefully in a very happy space. And so again, I can't emphasize enough the importance of companies being set up to handle inquiries and handle a process and measure it and evolve it and pivot on it, and so unlike, I guess, many marketers, I would think I always want to go beyond that inquiry or that lead. I don't sell people on 20 leads a month and that's it. It's up to you. If it fails, it's on you. I want to be involved in that discussion and help providers know that, Sally or Steve, who runs the front desk, may actually not be the right person to handle those inquiries.
Yeah.
Their workload needs to be very clear, like their plate needs to be very clear to make way to handle those inquiries. Because when and if, hopefully we do some killer campaigns and the leads start coming in, firstly, they'll be varying qualities. And so we need to work on that together to understand what's working, what's not. But following those leads, and that means calling them within 12 hours or less. You know, ultimately...
12 hours?
Well, that's if it's overnight. That's if it's overnight or the weekend, right? I'd want to see it the same day, of course. Look, I'm taking baby steps here. We're taking people that might leave them for 3 to 5 days.
Yeah, crazy.
So if I set a standard that's somewhat achievable, right? And that's... I don't feel good as a marketer when I'm bringing all these leads in and then they're not getting to them, and then we feel like we're failing, and it's this yucky...
we blame marketing.
Right? We blame... Yeah, the leads are crap, Chris. And don't get me wrong, they're not always golden leads, but until I get that feedback, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so let's sit down and work out who's in charge of handling these leads.
Yeah.
What is the sales process we're going to follow?
Yeah.
What is the structure and the system?
Yeah.
How many times are we going to call in the first day?
Yeah.
The first week? When do we qualify people out? How do we feed back to marketing that they're good, bad, or ugly?
Yeah.
And that sort of structure and that system is so important. And that's where I start with these clients is we're getting leads. Oh yeah, Chris, we're handling it. And then I get a direct line to the person who's so-called handling it, and they haven't contacted them for 3 days because the boss has just dropped urgent audit matters on their plate, or something else, a fire has started over here.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden it's like, oh, Chris, you know, boss dropped 3 things on me, so I couldn't get to the leads for 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's be real and let's be focused on this.
Yeah.
And so I want every SIL provider and every NDIS provider to focus on a system and a process, understand what following these leads up means, because you are burning cash.
Yeah. So you said like so many of my favorite words there. It's all my language: system, structure, process, right? And even I can get excited about a sales process because, you know, for me, the more efficient your sales process, the better your cost of conversion. Yeah. And I think really I spend a long time on my sales process, although I don't like sales. I don't like sales. Why I do podcasts, you know, top of the funnel. People come to me, much easier to sell.
But you still got to sell.
You have to
because someone has to buy your services.
Yeah, correct.
But it's nicer when they're warmed up and they just love who you are and what you do.
Yeah, and they chase you for 3 days and they don't go somewhere else. But that's not the reality of life, right? We have to manage the sales funnel, although, you know, marketing's the top of the sales funnel. And actually for me, it's not just about calling them back. It's actually about the booking them in for the meet and greet and following that process and actually thinking through those touch points, because that's really where you're showcasing how amazing you are. That is your time to shine, you know, and a lot of people don't think that through. They don't think it through at all. And so I think that's really important to think about is your sales process. In my head, marketing's job is to get the lead to hop in that inbox or that spreadsheet or that CRM. From there, somebody different needs to pick that up and drive it through to whatever your conversion is, which might be a meet and greet. And I find that piece is often missing. They get marketing leads in, they have a care coordinator or an intake officer who does the intake paperwork, and they forget that piece, and it's a different skill set.
And it's just lumped on whoever's got a little bit of capacity, often a underskilled admin person or someone who just shouldn't. They need training.
Yeah.
You know?
And sales needs to be a focus. I find that even in my business, my staff sometimes say, oh, we've got so many tickets today. And it's like, well, that's great, but they're not going anywhere. So leads have to be first. Otherwise, we're wasting money. And if you can't handle the lead volume, we need to turn the lead volume down till you can handle it, because otherwise we are just wasting that money.
Exactly.
And I can see how that's so easy for people to do. And I've done it in the past myself, but the better process and structure you have there, and from talking from an audit perspective, if you can then continue that beautiful process and structure through all the way from intake to service delivery to 12-month review to exit, and have that in place and really clearly be able to know who's responsible at each point in time, that client life cycle all of those touch points help your sales process and your marketing process.
Yeah.
They might also fill your SIL vacancy because you've got retention there,
Yeah.
and that person doesn't leave in the first place because the process carries through. So yes, I'm glad that somehow we managed to get this podcast back to structure and process, because now we're back in my wheelhouse.
Marketing's great, it's exciting, sales is great, but it all has to follow a process and a system.
Yeah.
And what you try today isn't necessarily going to work tomorrow, but at least you start with something. A lot of marketing is hypothesis testing until it's either proven right or you change it until you get the formula that works.
Yeah.
And that's one of the other things I want to clearly state, that marketing isn't an overnight success. And this is where brand comes in, this is where storytelling comes in, this is where realistic goal setting and growth planning comes in.
Yeah.
I don't love when clients come to me desperate for a lead or two. Of course I want to help, but it's almost too late. I want you to come to me because you're excited about building a long-term, big, powerful growth engine that's based on good, solid foundations of storytelling, of brand, of positioning, of understanding the market, understanding your competitors, understanding what channels will or won't work, having a plan for a sales process, all of those things. My favorite expression, marketing opens the door for sales. That's our job. And so we open the door, sales has got to be there ready to catch it, because otherwise we all fall over. We're wasting money.
I love that. That was wonderful, Chris.
Thank you.
Lastly, if somebody listening today wants to get in touch with you and talk to you about filling a SIL vacancy, how can they get in touch?
So I'm on LinkedIn. Find me as Christopher Lapa, or you can head to thegrowthacademy.com.au or send me an email at chris@thegrowthacademy.com.au.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
You're also one of the hosts at the Provider Collective. So if people want to meet you face-to-face for free, they can come to our Erina Provider Collective events that you are there at every month, and come along and hear the marketing guru in person.
Thank you so much.
No worries at all. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
That's a wrap on this episode of SILosophy. If this resonated with you, take a second to subscribe and share it with someone in the SIL space who really needs to hear this. Don't forget to connect with Tania Gomez Consulting on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook for more resources, conversations, and support to help you grow your impact. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep making a difference.